Hi, I'm Tim Bradner. We're at the University of Alaska Fairbanks at the Governor's Conference on the future of Alaska, the sustainability of our state. Governor Bill Walker, thanks for joining us.
You bet, my pleasure.
Governor, we're in the second day of this conference. How do you think it's going? Are people beginning to come together on things?
Well, I actually refer to it more as a conversation than a conference because I've been moving about between sessions, and it is as much conversation from those that are in attendance as those that are sort of the facilitators of each group, whatnot. So it's going very well. It's a discussion that Alaska needs to have.
What do you expect to get out of this?
You know, I think my takeaway from it isn't so much of a conclusion about specifically, what needs to change to balance our budget, but the fact that some of the issues and questions that come up, how it's going to impact different parts of our society, different parts of our economy. That's why we want to make sure we had pretty much as much representation as possible from around our state in every way.
Do you anticipate any concrete suggestions, or how would you use the suggestions?
I see it more as a guide, more so than as a roadmap. And again, I'm as interested in the questions that come up in the groups as I do with the results, because this isn't a scientifically based process. This is sort of more of a gut check about how people feel generally about various areas of modification to our revenue situation.
The size of the gap is just astounding. I mean, I was struck by Gunnar Knapp at the University of Alaska Anchorage's presentation showing we could be $2 billion, $3 billion underwater for the next few years.
Right.
How can we? That's incredible to deal with.
It is, and that's why we wanted to start off with Gunnar Knapp kind of laying that out as it's not a real positive way to start any sort of a conversation, but I think we have to know, it was important to us that we sort of put the facts on the table. The facts are what they are. There are those that certainly can sit back and say, well, let's just sit back and wait till the oil prices jump back up again. I don't think that's realistic. We as an administration don't have that luxury of sitting back, waiting for something to come up, because in the meantime we're spending $3 to $4 billion of a deficit every year. We just can't do that. So the numbers are pretty stark, and they're very large, and it's amazing what sort of moves the dial and what doesn't move the dial. So that's why we put this on our website. That's why we've made this open to the public, open to the media. This is not a behind closed doors discussion. We want this to be a discussion across the state of Alaska.
Yeah, I think this is going to give people permission, feel like they have permission to talk about these things.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way of putting it, because I think before we sort of don't talk about, what if we cap the permanent fund? What if we reinstitute income tax, come back to a school tax we used to have? And what's nice about the financial model is you can see what that raises in the way of money, but on the other hand, we also have to build in what impact does that have on the industry. That, say if it's on an industry or an individual, what impact does that have on that particular industry? In other words, if you raise a revenue from an industry, what's the impact? Is that industry going to now do less because of that? If so, it's that's not the result we're looking for. So there's going to be a lot of further discussion before any hard decisions are made, as far as, and it all will take legislation, of course. So this is all a precursor to that.
Now, what happens next? You intend this to go on all the rest of the summer?
What we want to have is a discussion to continue on, not so much from us, but from those that the 200 Alaskans that joined us for this weekend in Fairbanks, to take this back to their Rotary Club, their Chamber of Commerce, their school board meeting, whatever organization they might be from, to have that around a coffee table at home or in a coffee shop, to have that conversation about what are we going to do. It's important for us to make sure Alaskans understand that sort of the issue, the magnitude of the issue, and also I think the menu of options out there. I think there are about 25 or 30 that Commissioner Hoffbeck presented yesterday, and all that will be on our website.
Governor, the gas pipeline is out there in the future. Is that a substantial source of new revenue?
It's a source of revenue, but the actual revenue from the operation of it is out many years. Some say 7 years, some say 10 years. So we don't really factor the income from that. The income from the activity certainly would be significant. There's no question about that. If pipeline construction began in 3 years, there, of course, as we saw on the TAPS pipeline, the oil pipeline, the activity, the fiscal activity preceded the revenue from the oil pipeline itself by many years.
Yeah, but it could be a substantial source of new
It would be
revenue.
a substantial piece, but not enough, not soon enough to really come in and sort of balance the budget. Plus, the money we'd like to use to invest in that is what we're using now. Every year we wait, it's another $3 or $4 billion while we wait. And so I'd much rather see that money go towards equity in a pipeline than necessarily just general government spending.
Yeah, that's something we haven't thought much about, is the fact that it's going to cost us money to get into the pipeline venture. And we're using up some of that money now that we could be using.
We are, and so
that's
a concern, is that whatever we use up, I think the deficit's around $10 to $12 million a day. We could build a new school every 3 days. Not that that's what we would do with it, but that just sort of put it in perspective how the magnitude of our deficit. We've got to fix the hole in the bottom of the boat, and we've got to do it quickly.
Yeah. Well, Governor, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Always a pleasure.
This is Tim Bradner, University of Alaska Fairbanks campus. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.